It's 7:05. We'll go ahead and get started with our invocation. So, Bobby Christensen's going to do our invocation.
Good morning. Bow our heads. Lord and Creator, it's good to recognize how different we are. Our talents, our dreams, our backgrounds, our occupations. It's good to know that when you created each of us, you broke the mold. No one is exactly like anyone else. Even our thumbprint and our voice track tell us how unique we are. Yet we thank you that we can take these differences and mobilize them for the good of Rotary and our community. In our differences, we can think the same thoughts and move together toward a common goal. Bless us as we meet together. Thank you for our individuality and also our common bond of Rotary. Amen.
Amen.
All right. And for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the United States of America.
and to
To the republic
for which
which
it
stands
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Hoorah. Four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair?
All concerned
For the build
For the goodwill and better
friendship
will be
will be
beneficial.
beneficial to all concerned.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone here just so we can have some clear speaking. So if you're up, please remember to unmute yourself. And we're going to start with you, Rick. You have our birthdays and anniversaries.
Yes, sir, I do, Mr. President. And we'll just get started right here with some birthdays. I was trying to check and see who was on board and who is not. I didn't get the list taken. Is David Graves here today? David, darn. Boy, David has a birthday today. I thought we were going to get to sing. Daggone it. I was all tuned up and everything ready to go. Okay, John Nossick. I think I saw John on here. No, he's not here. John's got one coming up then on Saturday, and some guy named Rabondo. Anybody know a Rabondo in here anywhere? Mr. President, I think you have a birthday coming up this Sunday. So,
Yep.
Yeah, well, happy birthday to all you guys. And then partner birthdays. My bride had a birthday yesterday, so we were saying happy birthday to Patty. And let's see here. We have some wedding anniversaries that are coming up for next week. So heads up for Mid-Middleton, Howard Driggers, and Buster Lewis. And let's see, this week, no wedding anniversaries, but we have a couple of club anniversaries. Chris Justice, did I see you on here? Got some other Chris's.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there he is. Hey there, Chris. You have a club anniversary on, actually, it's Friday. And remember how many years you have?
I'll tell you on Friday.
Huh?
I'll tell you on Friday.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, big 12, got you a dozen there. Yeah. And Steve Wirtz, did I see you on here? I guess Steve isn't with us today. He's got a combined number of years of 21. So really congratulations to him too. So that wraps us up for today, Mr. President.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Next, I have a bit of a confession to make. I failed to send out the football pool. Mike sent it to me Thursday evening, and I was already participating in some moving activity. I'm selling my condo at the coast at a very nice profit, so I had to go and unload things and get everything moved, and I didn't see my email until Saturday after the college games had started. So I failed to send it to all of those people who didn't get it from the P-mail. So sorry, Mike. And you are up if you want to go ahead and announce the football pool.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm going to ask for Happy Dollars to go first because there's one other, again, this week. My failing is to get Dennis Marcotte's. I've got to check his. His comes in a different way. It comes in by homing pigeon. So I'm going to see if maybe, no, it's my fault, but maybe you can do Happy Dollars first. And Guy, I was going to say, I was going to fall on the sword for you and take the blame and talk about how, that email service where essentially the one where you're kind of dozing at your computer or your phone and it screams the greeting with all caps on your name. Anyway, if you could go to Buster real quick or something else, and I'll be ready in just a moment.
Well, we have plenty of things to talk about before Happy Dollars, so I'll give you some more time.
Okay.
So the board did meet Tuesday, and we had a sparse board, but we were able to get some emails out to get everybody to vote, and we have decided to go ahead and start our hybrid live meetings at a new location. We're going to meet at the Painted Plate, which is behind Village Tavern. So Brad, who is the chef over there, he was the food director at Starmount before, and he's been the caterer for many of our events. He's going to be cooking breakfast for us for about 3 months. So Tony has told us that though Henry is not going to probably be ready for us until February. So we have found an alternate location. The charge is going to be about $25 per person. I have a link where you can actually virtually view the facility if you want to look at it before we go. We have estimated about 30 people will attend. We're getting 38 for the Zoom here. So, and at least one of those is our speaker. So, if we get 30 people, we will do a hybrid Zoom live meeting. So people can choose what they want to do. They don't have to necessarily come and be in person to see the meeting. They can still do Zoom, and we'll have it all set up. I'm going to send all of this out in an email, but I just wanted to kind of tell everybody first, since most of you won't read my email anyway. So except for Matthew, he reads all of them. So we're gonna do that starting November. So we're not gonna have a meeting the end of October. All of this will be in the email. So the first meeting in November will be at the Village Tavern. Behind Village Tavern at the Painted Plate. I'm sorry.
That's
Is that where
exciting.
it used to be?
Or what?
Is that big building? Is that the big building where State Street used to be?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So it's been gutted and renovated, and Brad has made it clear that he can fit 100 people in there safely based on their capacity. Now we won't even come close to that, so we'll have plenty of room to spread out, and we're going to be screening people. We're going to be taking temperatures. We're going to be doing all these things to make sure everybody's safe. So it should be a very safe situation. We also will only charge the people for breakfast to attend. So it'll be, I'm sorry, are y'all hearing the background noise here? Can y'all hear me? Okay, good. They're fumigating my office right now, so it's kind of loud. So that's coming up. That'll all be in the email. So Mike has said he's ready now. If you want to go ahead and do the football pool, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll be quick because I want to share with you an important lesson I was reminded of this morning, and it ties into the pool. First of all, on the challenged end, let me say that if you ever need the professional services of Kim Dane or Lisa Simpson or Chip Vale, take them, because it's clear they're focused on their careers and not worrying about the football pool. Okay. So I think that says a lot, and in Chip's defense, I will say that he wasn't going to do it, but he emailed me on something else that happened to be a reply to the football pool. And I said, "Are you going to play this week?" And he said, "Well, I'll try." And he 30 seconds later, I got his form. Kim and Lisa were really in the thick of it to on the low end with 13 right. But they weren't bad enough. Chip, congratulations on being the low end. It was. I'm glad you played, and I hope you keep it up. On the high end, Dennis Marcotte, it's good that I scored your form, but you and Buster Lewis were not quite good enough. You both had 19. You tied for second, but we have a three-peat this week, and it's Tom Phoenix with 21 winning again. So congratulations to Tom, congratulations to Chip. This morning I was reminded, we have a football pool. We don't have a baseball pool. We don't have a basketball pool. We don't have a hockey pool. And I think it's especially appropriate this week with our speaker, who uses his feet to run all over the place. This morning, I was reminded that the foot is perhaps the most useful tool for discovering and locating unanticipated pet waste in a dark room. And I just want to remind you of that when you go about the day, especially the morning, especially before we fall back, here later this month or whenever it is. So I will get the football pool out. Guy and I will team up and get this to you so you can get it in, and hope you have a good week.
So it'll be the special dog stuff version of the football pool this week, right?
Well, luckily it was just liquid on a dog bed, so that was a lot better, but still a bit of a surprise.
Thank you, Mike. You do a great job every week. I appreciate it. So I do have a couple more announcements. The club, the foundation investment account is now at $260,000. So we've gotten to a very solid amount where we can start awarding our scholarship starting in the 21-22 year. That means this year we have to get the work done to create the qualifications, start looking for applications, and then awarding the scholarship. So that needs to be done in the early spring to allow people to plan for their financial aid, et cetera. So Chris Justice and Dan Quinn have volunteered to work on that. Judy Brumley as youth services will be working on it as well, and I will as well. If anybody else is interested in participating in that, let us know. We're going to be forming a small committee to create the rules and the bylaws to get it done and have it be sustaining, hopefully, for as long as the club goes on. So that's huge news. We also approved the foundation budget. It was only done 3 months late, so we got it done. And we are going to be contributing $10,000 to that scholarship fund this year. So thanks to our fundraiser, we're able to fund it. One other decision from our board meeting is we have decided to hold a single Christmas party in the evening. We're going to do it on December 10th. This Christmas party is going to be a combination of the award ceremony from last year, a thank you to our previous board, kind of in person for the first time, reintroduction to our new board. We are going to open it up to spouses and guests. We're hoping to hold it at the Grandover. There is a bunch of planning that needs to be done. So I just wanted to get everybody kind of on board with that before we get close to it. So it's going to be our big event for the Christmas season. We are not going to be able to probably host a children's breakfast. So that's going to be it for Christmas. I'm going to turn it over to Chip and Gail now if they want to talk about the world's greatest meal and the pig stock practice cook on October 24th.
Well, good morning, gang. Gail, are you on here?
I am. Yes, sir.
Well, good morning. Good morning, Gail. How you doing?
Good morning. Great. I hope you are.
Good morning to all. So on October the 24th, we're going to have hopefully a whole bunch of Gate City Rotarians and some friends over to Gail's house, 26 Holly, is it Springs Lane?
Yes. Yep.
I don't know why I can't get that in my head, Gail. I apologize. 26 Holly Springs Lane. We've got Danielle helping us with a sign-up sheet. And it is a fundraiser to help end polio. So Rick might want to chime in here too. Basically, we're going to cook a whole bunch of barbecue and chicken and stuff. Christy Milholland's cooking chicken. Rick and I are cooking barbecue. We'd love for somebody else to come and join in and help us cook or do something else. I think Kim Dane and Lisa Simpson have threatened to do something with chili. So anyway, we're going to have a whole bunch of good stuff. We'll have the sign-up sheet out shortly. And we'll ask you to probably show up around sometime between 3, 4-ish. We're going to try and serve food around 5:30, which will give us plenty of time to have a little fun after dinner and clean up a little bit, have some good fellowship. So with that, I'm going to let Gail jump in.
Okay, I'm jumping.
Sure. Both feet.
I'm just so honored to be able to help and fill in and offer my space and be a part of something finally. So I asked about a porta potty. It doesn't sound like anyone thinks we really need one, Chip, for the 24th.
I don't think we will for the 24th.
So,
I think we will for the November 7th deal.
Okay.
I hope we will. Let's put it that way.
Okay. And then I do have a neighbor who's always grilling, and he asked, and he's not a Rotarian, but, he seems eager to want to get involved.
Great.
And cook. So do I just, I think I'd ask Dan, what do I do about that? And just kind of have him fill out the paperwork?
Sure, that would be fantastic.
So
we'll help. We'll invite him. He can join, or he can be independent. Whatever he would like to do. The more, the merrier.
Well, and let me share this. I wouldn't normally reveal that I'm out walking my dog, but there are signs. I had Chris Meadows signs up here on Lawndale, and there's a sign that says stealing or removing signs is illegal. Somebody took down a sign and put that instead. And the Biden-Harris sign is all crumpled and thrown to pieces. Very interesting. Just thought I'd share that. We've had some interesting stuff going on here with cars. Not that anyone should be worried about their safety while they're here. Anyway, I'm looking forward to hosting the 24th and anything I can do. Chip, you just need to guide me and let me know what I need to do, and I'm happy to do it.
We got you, Gail. We got you. We do need to get together and talk. But anyway, we'll do that at your convenience. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Right. Everybody, please come out. Be prepared to write a check to the foundation or make a donation. This is to help end polio. We're very close. Again, over 18 million doses of polio vaccine have been funded by this campaign worldwide. And we've got to get our oar in the water and try and help out as best we can, too. So thank you. Please come in. It's going to be a fun time.
It's gonna, and Chip, are we?
Or not.
We may even have some live entertainment, right?
We're working on that. So, yes. All right. Join us on the 24th. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chip and Gail. So remember to write the checks to the Rotary Foundation, and we're gonna get those to Rick or Mike, and the goal is to get to, I think it's about $100 per member. So if we can, for us that's $8,000, but I have faith in this group that we could get to that amount. So be as generous as you can. Remember, it's going to a great cause, and if we're able to successfully end polio as a disease, every single Rotarian should feel super proud because we've eradicated a horrible disease that wrecks lives. So thank you again.
Well said, Guy. I just encourage everyone, especially this kind of year with every attendance off, it's going to be a challenge, but this club has always done just great work for polio, and I sure hope we can maintain it this time. If anybody is a little short, I hear somebody has sold a condo at the beach at a great profit, and I'll give you their name, and maybe you can hit them up for a loan. We'll make these numbers one way or the other.
Yeah, I plan on making a large contribution. So just so y'all know, if anybody wants to know how much, I'll be happy to share it, and y'all can definitely match me.
Definitely match. There you go, Guy. Yeah.
I would like to add, I know a lot of folks have already been out to my home for one reason or another, but if they haven't, I just want to stress that there is a lot of space in the yard, the yard and the cul-de-sac. So for those that might still be a little hesitant and concerned about the whole 6 foot apart thing, there is plenty of space to spread out, and we'll have tables and chairs. So I think everybody should find their own comfort zone and not worry about that.
Yeah, so this will be our meeting for the week. We will not have a meeting on October 29th. So, and then November 5th, we start our hybrid meetings. I do plan to, if y'all like, I can create a Zoom meeting and carry my phone around while we're at the party there. And so nobody needs to feel obligated to go. If you do want to go, you can wear a mask. You can stay on the fringe of the group and talk to people from 6 feet away. And being outside, you should be more than safe enough. So
right. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
I do want to call on Charlotte now to make an announcement about the Satellite Club. She's going to fill us in on what they've been up to. Charlotte.
Sorry, I muted myself. I'm so sorry. Trying to figure out this Zoom thing from my phone. It's not that easy. We talked about some role setting for next year and how we need a president-elect. I've had a couple of people respond, so I will wait and hear from anyone else if we have anybody else that raises their hand for president-elect position. Another thing we did was just talk about our service project. I know that I believe Chip spoke about it a little bit last week. I'm not sure if David Lillard was able to get some pictures up for us, but I believe we had 10 Rotarians out. The picture, let's see, the group picture does not include Kim Tyler. You see Christy Milholland on the left. There's Peter, Tina Forsberg, myself. In the back, the tall one is Mike Toomey. There's Chip. And then Tanya Rubieska, who works for Chris Justice. And then the last young lady on the right, or to the left, excuse me, I'm looking backward here. And the pink shirt is Taylor Coble, who is a hopeful. So she has joined us several times for meetings. She spoke with Chris Hamilton 2 weeks ago, and I'm hoping that she has already completed her application and will be voted on soon. Then, of course, you threw in that picture of Stephanie and I directing traffic. Of the about 190 some cars that came through that day, we were bringing them on as we faced the sunshine. And here we have Stephanie and Chris tag teaming a loading of a car. Some cars came through with one or two families. I think one even had 3 families that we had to load for. It was interesting. I met several young kids who were Hispanic, and I was able to speak enough Spanish to them to have some fun and get a few laughs out of the kids and some smiles. Such a rewarding day. I had no idea of the need. Let's see, I'm scrolling through. I see some more pictures. Here's Chris again. There's Kim, Tyler, and Mike loading the carts. And then, of course, it looks like I'm giving a peace sign in that last one. And I'm actually holding up a number 2 to tell everybody in both lines that were loading the cars that they were loading for 2 families and not 1. So it was important to communicate with our car loaders, which were people like Kim and Mike, Chris, Chip, Tina. I can't even name everybody. The thing that I found also interesting and I really liked was the fact that Chris and Stephanie brought out their son and his girlfriend. So they made it a family affair. I thought that was lovely to see. Very commendable. I'm having trouble seeing the screen where the other pictures were. So did I miss any pictures? I think there was one of Stephanie's son actually on there. I can't find that. So other than setting up for roles for next year, I also wanted to talk about where we are numbers-wise. It was agreed that the first 20 applicants would not have the Paul Harris Fellow, or that would be covered by the Rotary Club with your points. Depending upon how many of the most recent folks are approved, we could potentially be up to 18 people, possibly 19 at that point. So we're getting very close to hitting the mark if we're there.
Charlotte, as far as I know, we have 15 members in the club. We have 2 applications in the works, and we just received a 3rd. So that should, if all of them are approved, that'll get us to 18. So
okay.
The satellite club set a goal of getting to 20 by the end of the year. So they're gonna crush that, in my opinion. We do have some need for recruitment to the greater club. So I'm hoping once we get back to live meetings, we can get started doing that. So we tried to do a count of how many people have left since the beginning of the year, and I think it's 3. So we've lost 3 people. Somebody else has told me that they will be probably leaving the club by the end of the month. And I'm thinking I'll probably make the announcement about who it is at our next meeting. So anyway, on a happier note, everything's going well in the satellite club. They're doing a great job recruiting. And we're going to go to Happy Dollars. Buster?
Hey, Guy, this is Danielle. Can I make an announcement real quick before we move to Happy Dollars?
Sure.
So just to give everyone a heads up that's on the call today, Tom Richardson, Lisa, and I have been working on what we're calling is a fundraiser. It's an interactive scavenger hunt that will take folks downtown Greensboro and allows them the opportunity to get out in groups of their own choosing, just to go out and have some fun and support the downtown businesses. And again, it's interactive. Everything will be done online, so you don't have to worry about the people aspect of it. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out to Tom or I. But again, keep an eye on your email for that, and you can sign up for the scavenger hunt through Eventbrite.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. And you're going to send out that link, right?
Yes, that should be coming to you guys in the next day or two.
And the sign up for the practice code.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Buster, you want to take it? Is Buster here?
Must be Bobby.
Bobby, you want to do our Happy Dollars?
Okay, I'll do it. Happy Dollars. Don't forget the Venmo. Who's got one? Pin up demand.
I've got a Happy Dollar. We got back last night from our sailing trip, and I'm very happy that amongst the 4 of us, the ultimate social distancing, we didn't manage to kill each other, and we're still on speaking terms. It was quite a trip. It had all the elements of beautiful sailing and along with nasty weather and very wet feet for quite a while. But it was a lot of fun overall. Our last stop was Tangier Island in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, which is a disappearing community. It's sinking into the waves slowly. An old fishing village, and but it's a cool place, great trip, and grateful for it.
All right. Who else? David?
Okay, I've got one. All right, everybody. Hello. I'm having a bunch of artists this weekend. On Saturday, my front yard out here is going to have a bunch of pop-up tents, you know, social distancing required and mask required. There's several, I probably have about 10 artists out in my front lawn trying to make some Christmas money. So I'm the host at 30.
Can you send that out in an email?
But yeah, put me down for finding that one. Yeah, I'll be glad to put that out in a club email. Thanks.
That'd be great. Yeah.
All right. David, did you have one?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I don't see Christy on, so I'll announce this for her. Tonight, they're doing their virtual fundraiser for Out of the Garden Project. It's called Hearts for Hope. It's at 7 o'clock. It's online. If you go to outofthegardenproject.org/hearts, you can see more information there. You can just donate if you don't want to attend, but the program will start at 7 o'clock tonight, and it only lasts about 25 minutes. It's a really good program. So make sure and sign up for that. And then the second is we just finished the last 2 days, and this morning we're going to be filming some more content for our personal and professional development day that we normally have, and it's gone free and virtual, Spartan Pro Day. On Tuesday, we had Mick Mixon, voice of the Carolina Panthers, in a room with people like Tim Lowe, who's president of Lowe's Foods, having conversations about how they have thrived over the past 6 months. And so if you want to go to SpartanProDay.com, you can sign up for free. We're going to be streaming content over the next 3 weeks that you can watch for free, have your entire team sign up, since it's virtual, anyone can sign up. And that'll be 5 for me, Bobby.
All right.
I have one, actually two. Rosa, I don't know if I did mention this last time or not. She's officially a Delta Gamma at NC State. And I've been extremely impressed with how, since she has moved back home, they have managed, I mean, they have driven from Raleigh to Greensboro to hook up with her. She had to put up a best friend for them to coordinate surprises for her. I was moved that Rose actually picked her own sister as her best friend. I thought that was super. I must be doing something right. I don't know. But it's been really, really moving to watch that whole thing work in the midst of all the craziness. And then Victoria, still very, very involved in Young Life, and came home. She's officially a junior leader. Her goal is to be a senior leader for Young Life, because I think her senior leader actually, a few years ago, kind of really helped Victoria get back on her feet after losing her dad and her faith. And so I'm on the committee there and just grateful for Young Life. Those are my happy dollars.
All right. Tell you what, we'll cut it off here because the clock's ticking, but a reminder, Grandpappy always told me, before you criticize somebody, walk a mile in their shoes.
Yeah.
That way you're a mile away from them and you got their shoes.
Thank you, Bobby. So I'm going to call on Chris Justice to introduce our speaker. Chris.
Thanks, Guy. Bobby and I have known our guest speaker for many years. We've enjoyed and endured several adventures together. Charlie Engle has starred in 2 successful documentary films, Running the Sahara and Running America. He's authored a popular, well-reviewed book entitled Running Man, and perhaps his most important role, other than father to his 2 boys and husband to his wife, Stacy, is as an inspiration to those suffering from addiction and mental health issues. My favorite thing about Charlie is his honesty. Charlie has never run from his own failings and doesn't hide from adversities he's faced, whether those adversities were self-imposed or thrown his way. That makes him an incredibly powerful and highly in-demand inspirational speaker. Today, we are lucky enough to get him a few minutes for free. Let's all welcome Charlie Engle.
Thank you, Chris and Bobby. And wait, free? I thought we talked about that. No, we did. Thank you, everybody. Some of you may know parts of my story. I have spoken there at the club when we were live, and I had hoped to be able to do this one live, but maybe you'll give me a chance to do that again in the future. But I have a lot of connections with Greensboro. I come back often. My wife's family is still there. So, Chris and I were talking yesterday, and we were talking a little bit about service, and it struck me that service very often with Rotary is amazingly obvious and overt, but I know a lot of you, and Chris and Bobby especially, and service very often takes a form of what I like to call attraction rather than promotion. It's about how we live our lives, because people are always watching, and there's ways to be of service to other people that are just small things every single day. It doesn't have to be a big program or a fundraiser. It can just be what I call just personal service. So I'm going to just take a few minutes, and I'm going to have you guys out the door by 8 o'clock. And my story really revolves around one central theme. And when I speak, normally in person, it revolves around this one simple idea that what happens to us isn't really as important as what we do about it. Good and bad things happen to everybody, and challenges come along for everyone, and it's how we respond to those challenges that really make the difference, and especially in these times that we're living in now, which are pretty darn uncertain. When I was 29 years old, my first son, Brett, was born, and he didn't know it, but he was going to save me. For about 10 years at that point in my life, I'd been a really struggling drug addict and alcoholic, and I had literally tried everything to quit. I'd gone to rehab, I'd gone to meetings, I'd gone to church, I'd gone, I tried what I thought was everything to quit, and really nothing had happened. And I thought just Brett's birth was going to change all that for me, because surely I could stay sober for him. And I remember holding this tiny little baby, and after 10 years of addiction, I was feeling love and from him and for him that I just didn't think I was capable of. And I certainly didn't think I was entitled to, because as an addict, I thought I was just broken and that those parts of me didn't work. And so for really the first time in my life, I felt like I had hope. And inexplicably, a couple of months after his birth, I found myself driving to the worst neighborhood in town. I was working in Wichita, Kansas, and that binge lasted for 6 days. And it ended with me sitting on the ground outside a little dumpy motel room that was $15 a night, and I could no longer pay for it. I was handcuffed on the ground. The police were going through my truck and my Toyota 4Runner, and there were bullet holes in the 4Runner that were put there by someone who was actually shooting at me. They weren't mad at my car, as far as I know. So, and I'll never forget actually watching this policeman search under the seat in my car and pull out this little glass pipe. And I'm sitting on the ground behind him, and he turns and he looks at me and he shakes his head in this condemning way that made me ashamed, and any rational person, of which I wasn't, would have been more concerned about what was going to happen next. Because if I'd really been thinking, it would have been like, oh my God, I'm in some serious trouble here. Like, this is going to be bad. And all I could think looking at him was, so that's where that was. It was under my seat. I spent like 2 days looking for that thing. And, I don't mean to make light of it so much, except for the fact that it is this, it is the craziness, the mentality that goes with addiction. And I knew in that moment that I had a choice between living and dying. And really, I had the clearest thought, even after 6 days of not sleeping, not eating, the clearest thought I'd had in a very long time. And it was just simply that something's got to change. And I knew I had a decision to make between living and dying, and I chose running, which for some of you might be the same as dying, but that's another story. That night, I went to an AA meeting, and it was the first one that I'd ever been to that I went not because my boss was telling me, or my family was telling me, or someone else was pushing me. It was because I actually wanted to make a change. And by the way, I always like to mention, we got about 40 people on this call. Every one of you falls into a couple of categories. You either are an addict, an addict, you have a family member who is an addict, hopefully in recovery, but maybe not. Or a friend or someone who has been deeply affected by addiction. And so this I know when I talk about this stuff, it doesn't escape any of you. You're either thinking about someone that you know well or that you've heard about. And I think that that's really important to remember. So I went to that AA meeting that night. I got up the next morning and I put on my running shoes and I went for a run. And it was awful, couple of miles. But what happened next is what's important. I spent the next 3 years doing those two things every single day. I went to a meeting and I ran every day without missing a single day. And slowly I began to build a life for myself. During that time, I also ran about 30 marathons. So clearly I had that whole addiction thing under control. I basically figured out that I loved the feeling of running. I loved, in some ways, not just the pain and suffering and the learning that was happening, but I also felt like I deserved that punishment. So I think what I was trying to do was actually get rid of the addict. I ran as hard as I possibly could, every single time I ran. As if I could take a scalpel and just cut out that addiction part of my personality. And I had people actually ask me if I hadn't just switched addictions, because it seemed like all I was doing was running. And I needed a combination of AA and running. And it took a while for me to understand that addiction is it's about being invisible. It's about having no feelings, or if I had a feeling, I drank or drugged it away. Running is the exact opposite. My friends Bobby and Chris could both attest to the fact, and probably many of you, there's no hiding when you're running. Like, you're going to feel everything that you're feeling. It's going to come out, and there's nowhere to go except to feel it and to not just internalize it, but to allow it to drive you forward. And so, those 3 years changed everything for me. What I realized is that I didn't need to get rid of the addict. What I needed to do was take that addictive nature. Without the addict, I wouldn't have been good at anything. So I needed to take my addictive nature, my obsessive nature, and point it towards something good. And I would also say to everybody on the call, you can't be successful, and this is a group of successful people. You can't be successful without having at least a period of obsession pointed towards that thing that you're most passionate about. And that may alter in life, but people always talk about seeking balance, and I really don't. I understand the concept. I've just never grasped it personally because balance is overrated sometimes. You have to take care of family and business and your health. And yes, there is some balance, but you have to sometimes just be obsessed by this thing that you're chasing. So after those 3 years, I started to run. I woke up one day and I was like, I want to see how far I can go. I had run a lot of marathons, and I still loved running them, but I no longer towed the starting line and felt that nervous energy about, what is this? Can I do this? And so I started to run 50 milers, and I started to run 100 milers, and I was doing races within a few years all over the world, sometimes hundreds of miles at a time. I ran across the Atacama Desert in Chile. I ran across the Gobi Desert in China and the jungles of Vietnam and Borneo and Fiji. And I was climbing mountains, Mount Denali in Alaska, and I went over 20,000 feet about a dozen times. And all of this in a quest for discovery. I was setting a few records here and there, but it was about learning more about myself. And the only way I knew how to do that was through physically pushing myself. Ultimately, I found myself in the Amazon jungle doing a race across the Amazon. And a guy that I'd never met before is in a jungle hammock, next to me on like day 3 of this 7-day race. And he blurts out this idea, I wonder if anyone's ever run across the Sahara Desert. And I literally looked at him. I said, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. It's like, you'd have to be a complete moron to even consider it, because it's too hot. You can't get resupplied. It's too dangerous. It's not doable. And so, being the complete idiot that I am, of course, I came back to the United States, and I couldn't stop thinking about this idea. This is in the early 2000s, and I was working as a television producer at this point for ABC's Extreme Makeover Home Edition. I'd worked on the show as a producer for several years, and I had some connections in Hollywood. But I started telling this story that I was going to be the first person ever to run across Africa, to run across the Sahara Desert. And I took possession of this idea, and person after person told me it's impossible. Maybe even a couple of people on this call, I can't remember. But every time somebody told me I couldn't do it, I felt my heels digging in just a little bit more. And I allowed them to have full possession of what was impossible, while I took sole ownership of everything that was possible. Because there are always people that will be readily available to tell you that something can't be done. That's the easiest position to ever take on any topic in the world. So ultimately, I ended up getting this meeting with a guy named James Mall. I'll keep this part short, but he became the director, and he had won an Academy Award a couple years earlier for Best Documentary. he calls me a week later and he's like, hey, I just hung up the phone with Matt Damon. And, you know, I told you we need a production company to help us with this project. And Matt says that he wants to narrate the film and he would executive produce it. Would that be okay with you? So I'm proud to say that I took a beat and I kind of said, you know, I was really hoping for someone better, but yeah, Matt Damon will be just fine for this project. And so now, to understand, I have 2 Academy Award winners attached to a project about me running across sand. Pretty exciting. And a year later, I find myself in the Sahara, surrounded by 2 other co-runners. One of them was the guy who blurted out the bad idea to me in the Amazon. And I always say that words said to us by a stranger can change the course of your entire life. You know, we've all had the experience on a plane or just sitting next to a stranger and they say something that really does make a difference. So we're there. I'm surrounded by everybody. We're all excited about running across the Sahara. And all I can think is I have suckered all of these people out here to the middle of the Sahara Desert and we're all going to die. So about 7 days later, my prophecy almost came true. A full 7 days into this 5,000-mile journey, we'd been lost in sandstorms. We ran out of water and food. 2 of my crew members quit. Like every single aspect of this journey had gone wrong. And I had, I thought, an amazing plan. And everything had gone wrong. And I realized on day 7 that I wasn't going to make it. Like this wasn't going to happen if I didn't change my approach. And what I figured out was, you know, I'd now been sober for a really long time, 1 day at a time. And I'd figured out that this project, I had been so focused on getting to the finish line, like that's the only thing I cared about, that I had forgotten about the daily steps that it takes. I could only run today's miles today. Those are the only ones I could run. And then I'd get to tomorrow's when that time came. So I woke up on day 8 and all I focused on in the morning was running a marathon before lunch. That's the only thing I thought about for the morning. I took a break at lunch, and in the afternoon, I thought about running a second marathon before dinner. And when I got to the end of the day, I put my little thin foam mat down on the ground, and I stared up at a billion stars because there was an electric light within 500 miles, and I gave thanks for the opportunity to be alive and suffering, and to have the chance to just be having this experience, because in my wildest dreams, I never would have ended up in this beautiful, amazing place having this experience. So in that way, everything changed and I began to focus on my 1 day at a time approach. The only miles I could run were the ones right in front of me. 111 days after we started, I put my feet in the Red Sea in Egypt. And at the end, I ran nearly 50 miles per day for 111 consecutive days without taking a single day off. And it changed everything about my life. I co-founded a nonprofit called H2O Africa with Matt Damon, and I managed to raise about $6 million during, this is the service piece. You know, I was doing the thing that I was passionate about, the thing that I loved. And almost as a side effect, I raised $6 million because, you know, if you do the thing that you're passionate about, good things will happen. If the only focus is raising money or what's going to come out of it, for me, it gets twisted sideways. I need to focus on what I'm passionate about. Today, H2O Africa, which we started, is actually called water.org, and maybe some of you have heard about it. Matt is still very much involved. And, you know, we have about $1.5 billion in funding at this point, and we serve millions of people in the clean water and sanitation space around the world. And it all came from this just crazy idea that somehow running across the desert could make a difference. So I managed to get myself on the Jay Leno show and NPR and all the morning shows, and I had some fun and started doing a lot of speaking. And the next year, I actually tried another undertaking called Running America, and I partnered with the United Way. And the goal was to set a new record for the fastest run across the United States. And to do that, I needed to run about 70 miles per day for 45 consecutive days. Much different experience. I completely disintegrated about 19 days into this run, and I could no longer run. I was injured. I was gonna do something that was actually gonna stop me from being able to run and maybe not even walk for the rest of my life. And I had to shut it down. And it was a super high profile, humbling experience. You know, certainly in the running community, a lot of people were watching. And interestingly, I had committed myself to stop at schools all along the way, special needs schools, and give talks. I ended up having to run 18 hours a day just to cover the mileage that I needed. And so I wasn't doing any of the things that I set out to do. And I always look at this like the universe, not that I was being punished, but the universe did for me what I couldn't do for myself. When I stopped running, I stayed out there. I didn't quit and go home. I got on a bike and I started to ride the rest of the way. And I ended up stopping at about a dozen schools and, you know, pushing kids in wheelchairs around the track and giving talks at schools. And it changed the experience for me 100%. I didn't come close to setting a record, but I actually accomplished the goal, you know, that I really set out to do. A couple of years later, 2015, I put together something called the Icebreaker Run, which was myself and 5 other recovering addicts. And the goal was to bring a lot of attention to the need for greater mental health services in this country, because addicts don't get better in jail. They don't get better in prison. Addicts get better by going to treatment. And from a fiscal standpoint, even those people who take a tough on crime standpoint, it doesn't make any sense to put people who are struggling with drugs and addiction in jail. They don't get better. It costs taxpayers 10 times more money to do that than it does to send them to treatment and give them an opportunity to change their life. And so that's what this run was about. We ran for 24 straight days, 24 hours a day, from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., to the National Mental Health Conference, where we finished. And I gave a talk there, and it was one of the highlights of my life. All right, so this was about service. And as I always like to say, attraction rather than promotion. I'm going to finish by telling us just a very short story that I told Chris yesterday, and I think it highlights how little things make a difference. When I first got sober, 28 years ago now, when I first got sober, I had a sponsor. And most of you are familiar with the concept. And he was in his 70s and had over 30 years of sobriety. And I was 29 years old, and his name was John. And I said, John, you know, I want to know the secret about staying sober so long. How have you done it? And he said, you know, Charlie, I'll tell you the secret. You just have to come to the meeting tonight, show up about 30 minutes early, and I'll tell you, I promise. So I show up 30 minutes early, and I'm like, John, I just want to thank you for this. You know, I probably don't deserve it, but thanks for, you know, for working with me on this. He said, no problem. And I'm like, so what is it? What can you tell me? He's like, you see those coffee pots over there? Do me a favor and just go over there and make 5 pots of coffee, because the meeting's going to start soon, and I'll tell you later. So I go over and I make the coffee. And after the meeting, I'm like, so John, you know, do we have time to talk still? And he's like, no, you know, I tell you what, come back tomorrow 30 minutes early and I'll tell you then. And so I showed up 30 minutes early the next day, and he said, yeah, go ahead and make the coffee and then we'll sit down and talk. And I'm sure you guys see where this is going. 30 days in a row, I showed up 30 minutes early. And what I ended up doing was making coffee for this AA meeting that about 25 or 30 other people attended. And in that way, I learned the value of service. Nobody acknowledged me. I wasn't getting any accolades for making the coffee. But for me, I showed up every single day, and I made a difference for other people, whether they knew it or not. And more than anything, I learned the value of doing small service things that actually can change other people's lives. So look, I know we're on a time crunch here. 7:59. I promised I would be done by 8 o'clock. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen. I hope everyone's getting through these crazy times all right. My wife and I both had COVID. My wife's still recovering. You know, I had a fairly mild case, but, you know, it's for real. So continue to be continue to be safe out there. And thank you guys for having me. I hope to see you in person soon.
Thank you, Charlie. Your passion is very inspiring, man, and it was well received, at least by me. I know you don't get the same feedback from seeing the whole group and everybody's interest, but I know you got lots of fans in this group. So thank you for taking your time to speak to us. So I'm gonna leave the call open here. We're gonna end our meeting, but if people want to ask Charlie, I don't know if he has time, but
yeah,
if he wants to answer any questions, we'll go ahead and end our meeting. And if people need to get to work, and then you can ask Charlie your questions now. Thank you again.
I see Chris is unmuted. Go for it, dude. I know you. I see that smile behind that mask.
I'm not gonna do you like that.